Soil beneath our feet is the foundation of all life present on Earth. Did you know that 95% of the world's food comes from soil? What's even more surprising is that soil has the power to help fight climate change. By capturing and storing carbon, soil can play a crucial role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But are we doing enough to protect this valuable resource?
Join me as I deep down into the fascinating world of science with Professor Rattan Lal and challenge to understand why it matters more than we think.
Welcome to Beyond Shodh, the podcast where we delve into the world's leading scientists, engineers, and thinkers. I'm your host Sonia Balyan, and today we have the distinct honor of exploring the profound wisdom and the scientific expertise of a legend in the field of soil science, Professor Rattan Lal. Professor Rattan Lal is a distinguished university professor of soil science and the director of Rattan Lal Center for Carbon Management and Sequestration at the Ohio State University. Professor Lal is also an adjunct professor at the University of Iceland and the Indian Agricultural Research Institute. He is globally recognized as a pioneer in the soil-centric agricultural management aimed at enhancing food security and developing climate-resistant agriculture through innovative soil carbon sequestration techniques and sustainable intensification.
Professor Lal completed his BSc at Punjab Agricultural University and his MSc at the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, India. In 1968, he earned his PhD in soils from the Ohio State University and subsequently moved to the University of Sydney as the postdoctoral researcher. In 1969, he moved to Nigeria to serve as the soil physicist at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, where he made significant contribution towards the understanding of soil health. Then in 1987, he returned to Ohio State University and established the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center. During his remarkable tenure, he has held numerous leadership positions in prestigious organizations.
He has dedicated his life to advancing soil health, enhancing food security, and developing sustainable agricultural practice that can withstand the challenges of climate change. His pioneering research in soil carbon sequestration has opened new pathways for the mitigation of global warming, earning him numerous accolades, including the Padma Shri and the World Food Prize and the Japan Prize. It's impossible for me to even summarize his contributions within the time frame of this episode. So today we are very fortunate that we got the opportunity to learn from a man who has been ranked among the world's most influential scientific minds and has mentored hundreds of scholars around the globe. We will delve into his groundbreaking work in soil science, his vision for sustainable future, and his tireless efforts to promote the importance of soil health and management in tackling the global challenges like climate change and food security. Join us as we explore the story of a scientist who led not only advance the understanding of soils but also become a beacon of hope in the fight of sustainable development and environmental stewardship.
My family came from Gujranwala district in Pakistan side of Punjab, and I was about 5 years old at that time. And then we came to Indian Punjab in Karnal. So my father and uncle and my brother, they had a small farm, like most small farm are common in India. And so I grew up on that farm, and fortunately, in the village where I grew up, they still had a primary school. At that time, it was called madrasa. So I joined that madrasa, and By the time I was getting to third or fourth grade, it became middle school and then eventually high school. So I graduated from a village high school, which at that time had no basic necessities. And I don't think I even knew that what we are missing. There are no roads, no electricity, no water, no basic amenities. But I think it was a great experience to grow up in an agricultural community. And that's where I learned that soil and natural resources are the most basic of nature's gift on which depend our life. And so management of soil becomes very, very crucial. And resource poor farmers doing everything manually or with bullock, it's quite a drudgery, quite a hardship.
Yes.
So many of the questions, why is plowing needed? Why do we have a flood irrigation? Why are weeds difficult to control? Um, why are the crop yields low? Why are people suffering from malnutrition? So those things came out my childhood experience, growing up very, in a way, innocently in a village community with very little facilities.
So, sir, how you got interested in soil science and then came to from all over from a little boy from Punjab to becoming the world's #1 scientist in your field?
And thank you for saying that. I think the other people who think I'm #1 scientist, I'm still a researcher. I went from my village to Ludhiana. The reason to go to Ludhiana was my father's elder sister was there. And so she invited me to come and stay with her. And that's where I learned that Ludhiana was developing an agricultural college. And in fact, one of my neighbor friend of my age group was working there as a clerk, people who type letters and so forth. And I was very impressed with his salary. He was getting 60 rupees or something like this. This was in 58, 57. So I asked him one day, you're so fortunate getting 60 rupees a month. Can I also get a job? And I had shown him my diploma from high school, which was first division. And he said, maybe you should get an admission into the. So I fortunately got admission. It was not easy because my first interview, I did not succeed. I won't go into the detail. So my name was not on the list. And later on, the same friend, he said, I know the head clerk. We'll go ask him why I'm not there. The fact is, when I was called in for interview, the panel did not realize that I was a candidate.
Oh.
So they simply put he did not show up. So that's what happened. So eventually I did get the admission about a month later. And a professor from Ohio State had just joined after returning back with PhD degree. And he taught us soil science.
At Ludhiana?
At Ludhiana.
Okay.
And his name was Dr. D.R. Bumla. He later became Vice Chancellor of Hisar campus. He was also director of the Salinity Institute in Karnal. So he motivated me to study soil science, although my best subject was botany.
Okay.
And also professor of botany, also from Ohio State, PhD. He was from Shimla. His name was Dr. Haitham Kalia. And I used to be very good in botany. And he said, hey, how about studying botany? But Dr. Bumla won. He thought soil science was a good subject for me. And he actually encouraged me to do MS degree. And I did at IARI. And during that time, he suggested that if I want to go to Ohio State, because I was first at Ludhiana in my class, and also I was first at IARI. In fact, he came as an examiner for IARI MSc degree and suggested he will support my letter for admission to Ohio State. I still have that letter. Handed my application to Ohio State for admission. So I came to Ohio State in 65 and did my PhD here. And in 68, I left and the country and went away. But there are a few people who are very kind. Dr. Bumla was definitely uh, Dean of Agriculture College at that time, Dr. J.S. Kanwar and Jaswant Singh Kanwar. And Dr. Kanwar was also PhD in soil science from Australia. So with these two people, kind of a role model that I should also study soil. So here I am. That's how it happened.
Great, sir. So tell us about your research areas, sir, and your vision of your lab.
Well, from Ohio State, I actually wanted to stay here, uh, but my professor, who was my advisor, he thought if I stayed in the US at that time, mid 60s, the job but not for Asian,
Okay.
high level job, faculty and professor. And he was aware of it. And he said, no, I think you should get out of here and do something in the world. And if you prove yourself you are good, maybe we'll bring you back. And that's exactly what happened. So I left as his advised. And when he got a retirement in 84, he was the first one to write me a letter, apply for my position. He has discussed with other colleagues at Ohio State, and they all think you should come back. So this is how I got back. I had support from my colleagues at Ohio State. But the reason for that support was because in Nigeria, my job was to find alternative to shifting cultivation. And during that process, I learned that when you remove the tropical rainforest, the very serious problem of soil erosion by water, surface runoff.
Yes, sir.
And as the water would run off and nothing seeped into the ground, even 2 days after a heavy rain, crop will be wilting because there was no water in the soil. Everything was down.
Yes.
And at the same time, the soil temperature would get to 50 degrees centigrade or 45 degrees centigrade. And I'm a physicist, so my interest was to study water infiltration, runoff, kinetic energy of the rain, momentum of the rain, drop side distribution of the rain, their impact on smashing soil structure and causing a lot of runoff. And some of those studies, simple as they were, there were no other studies in Africa at that time. So whatever I did on measurement of soil temperature, on runoff, erosion, how to control it. If you don't plow, you don't get erosion. All that information was kind of unique. Sounds very simple now, but this was, 69, 70, 71, some 54, 55 years ago. And I published very frequently those information, which I published in a European journal, which were very unique. So all of a sudden, I kind of became very aware that whatever things we were doing, if we adopt a soil management approach rather than seed management. And this is the difference between Dr. Swaminathan's concept. Let's have dwarf varieties, seed high quality, and I fully respect that, yes. But if a miracle variety is grown in a very degraded soil, it won't perform miracle. That was simple as that. And so that was the concept. How to manage soil, how to control erosion, how to conserve water, how to manage soil temperature. And so I was not talking about fertilizer. I was not talking about putting pesticides. I was simply concerned with preserving the soil, storing water in it, moderating its temperature, so that the biological activity in soil, earthworm, termites, centipedes, millipedes, micro, they are all thriving. And if they thrive, soil will be good quality. And that was the basis of the soil-centric approach. And I did not invent that word either. I noticed that when I got the World Food Prize, somebody said, we are giving him the World Food Prize because of his soil-centric approach rather than the seed-centric approach of Dr. Borlaug and Dr. Swaminathan.
Great, great, sir. Because this work is so relevant, and in today's time, it is the need of the hour, because we are really struggling with the climate change and other things, and we need some very, very, robust steps so that
Yeah.
it can be achieved.
I'm glad you say that because the soils of India are very degraded.
Yes.
I regret to say that. I'm saddened to say that. For example, the organic matter content in soils of Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, same thing in Pakistan, is 0.2%, 0.3%. And with 0.2%, 0.3%, the optimum soil organic matter content in the root zone in the top 30 centimeter or 20 centimeter should be about 2%, 2.5%. In Ohio, we think 2.5 to 3%. So in semi-arid region like northwestern India, maybe 1.5 to 2%. But when it's 0.2%, that soil is crusted, compacted, hard, structure is not good, it doesn't retain water, root penetration is poor. So even when you put fertilizer, they don't mean anything. In fact, they're lost to the earth. So managing soil for its physical, hydrological characteristics is very critical. So it's not simply putting fertilizer. That's not a substitute for management. It's not simply plowing. That's not a substitute for preserving structure. So all those inputs are bandages, not the proper procedure to manage the soil.
So, sir, what are the proper measures to restore or improve this soil health?
Well, the organic matter content, which is very low in soil, therefore, nitrogen use efficiency may be 30% under good condition, more like 20%. Most remaining nitrogen is lost to the atmosphere as ammonia or nitrous oxide or washed into the water runoff and so forth. So the use efficiency of energy. So everything that means building soil, what building organic carbon means is returning the plant biomass, turi, bhusa, you know what we call it, back to the soil. Now this sounds nonsense, kind of stupid idea, because turi has a very high value. But soil is like a bank account. You cannot keep taking out of the bank and not putting anything back. And that is the problem with our system. We put the residue little bit, remaining we take it away and feed it to the cattle. Dung sometimes doesn't come back. It has other uses. And then we try to plow it to improve the structure of the soil, which doesn't happen because organic matter is not there. So now these days they are burning residue,
Yes.
which is even worse. We are people who believe in non-violence, and yet, soil is the largest reservoir of biodiversity. And then you burn it. You understand? You are putting on living things on fire. So burning is a major disaster. But our farmers are not aware of some of these things because they are desperate. They have to do what the circumstances dictate. So if we want farmers to do things of which they are not sure that they will get a return, we as consumer and society and policy should be willing to pay them to make sure that they are not going to suffer economically. So some of the subsidies like previously for growing certain practices, and I think they should be transformed into ecosystem services payment. If you do good thing, we'll pay you. If you don't do a good thing, there is no punishment there, but there is no reward either. And my suggestion is the payment should be $50 per credit of carbon. And one credit is 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, which in a good management, a farmer who owns 1 acre land, they could get 2 credit, $100 per acre per year, are doing better agriculture practices. Even though they get less yield, maybe 5% or 10%, they still are compensated for that.
Yes. So, sir, have you discussed these issues with the agriculture universities there in Punjab and IARI and?
I have, I do give my They invite me. I haven't been to India since 2018, I believe, and COVID came, and then we couldn't go. But I don't think it is the university issue, it's the policy issue. I think it's really a matter of
Concern, yes.
opportunity to talk to policymakers who listen and make a difference. And that part, for example, what I'm saying is, let's not encourage farmer to burn, let's not encourage them to take away the residue, encourage them not to plow. It may lead to less production for the first 2, 3, 4 years. And in that transition period, make sure farmers do not suffer financially.
Yes.
And that is something which is very, same thing applied to rice paddies. Puddling and then destroying soil structure and flooding is certainly not very good ecologically. Methane emission, destruction of soil structure. If you don't puddle and don't grow flooded rice, grow rice like a wheat, it is possible that the yield may be low. See, here is the difference. It's not a production oriented.
Yes.
Let's produce more, and then we waste 40% of our grains. So why produce more and waste more?
But this is the long-term solution, which is
It is the long-term
Yes.
solution.
it is very necessary, because if we don't act now, I think it will become too late to come
Well,
up with a solution.
Not only that, for example, the water table drop in Punjab, Haryana, because of flood irrigation is almost a meter a year. It used to be. Why flood? And if you get 10% less yield, so what? As long as you compensate farmer that we are going to pay you high price. And recent estimate that the grain wastage in India is about 30%. I think it's more. And the wastage of fruits and vegetables is even more than that. So I think if we do a better way of agriculture and not focus on the highest yield, but better quality of food, better environment. I have just this morning gave a lecture recorded. I was showing picture of Lal Killa or India Gate in a very bad smoky environment versus a clean, neat air. And I showed picture of Himalayas from Delhi on a good day, which is very rare. I showed pictures of dolphins in Ganges. But we don't enjoy that beauty because we have polluted the environment.
And we have
And
seen
again,
that, sir. Myself, I live at Delhi, and I know how it became like a gas chamber, and every other day, whole fog is there, which is not the winter fog, almost all the pollution. And when there is this lockdown happened during COVID,
yeah,
there is no pollution. So
no,
the whole
even in 1
problem,
week,
yes,
even in 1 week, it
so
was
the
everything.
whole
Yeah.
problem is we human. If we are we are under our houses, the earth gets time to revive, and it restores its climate. It solve all the problem. But
I think if we educate people, educate mothers so that the children get educated, I think that's the solution. And if our goal is not to get the highest yield, the goal is to get good yield, respectable yield, so that and high quality yield. And this is the difference between green revolution, where produce, which we needed at the time. Yes, we did need that time. But now India has sufficient grains, and we need to produce better quality. We need to save the environment. And that is a part which is very, very critical. But now India.
Definitely, sir. So, sir, how does soil influence climate change, and how critical is the soil in process of climate sequestration? You have done a whole lot of work towards. Can you share a little bit insights
Yes.
about?
Soil, is the largest reservoir of carbon. So soil has two types of carbon. Whereas soil is a darker color, every other thing remaining the same. I'm talking about, let's say, alluvial soils. When they are darker, they have more organic matter content. There are multi-soils in Hyderabad. They are dark color for different reasons. But darker soils generally have more organic. So soils of the world have about 1,500 billion tons of organic carbon to 1 meter depth. And soils of the world also have inorganic carbon. Soils of drier climate, like we are talking about Punjab, Haryana, all that drier part of Rajasthan, and they also have inorganic carbon. There are carbonates and bicarbonate. So total soil to 1 meter depth contains 2,500 billion tons of carbon. Compared to the atmosphere, contains 800 billion tons. Compared to all trees and shrubs of the world, you will not believe that, 620 billion tons. So soil, 2,500 billion tons, have 3 times more than the atmosphere and 4 times more than all the trees. So if a small amount of carbon gets out of soil into the atmosphere is easily overwhelmed. But we can take carbon out from the atmosphere and put back in the soil. And this is the process of soil carbon sequestration. So when you plow, you are mixing oxygen in soil and you are burning up the carbon. So it goes in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide or as a methane. When you flood the soil, the carbon in the soil goes into the atmosphere as a methane. When you broadcast fertilizer on the soil with low efficiency, the nitrogen, the fertilizer goes in the atmosphere as either ammonia or nitrous oxide. So nitrous oxide and methane are very high potent gases called global warming. Nitrous oxide N2O is 310 times more potent than carbon dioxide is. And methane gas CH4 is 28 times more potent than carbon dioxide is. So agriculture done improperly leads to emission of gases that aggravate global warming. So it's not just the fossil fuel, it's also agriculture. So when you burn the crop residue, all that carbon, dhuma, soot is going into the atmosphere. So all those, so what we are talking about is rather than agriculture being a problem, aggravating the climate change, agriculture should be a solution to the problem. And for that purpose, it is possible that the farmers may have to sacrifice some yield. But that's not the objective. The objective is not the maximize yield. The objective is to produce satisfactory yield without harming the environment. So if we can leave the crop residue, don't burn it, do not graze it, do conservation agriculture, no-till farming, do agroforestry, carbon will go back into the soil. And that is what I was saying, pay farmer for 1 carbon credit. And 1 carbon credit is equal to 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. And if we can pay them $50 for that and say, we want you to do agriculture like this, that should solve the problem globally. And I have calculated that globally, if you can do this on all the cropland of the world and grazing land, by 2100, we can create a drawdown of atmospheric CO2 of about 150 parts per million. So if we can find alternative sources of energy like solar or wind or hydro, even nuclear, and do better agriculture, we still have an opportunity to maintain global warming below 2 degrees Celsius.
It can be possible, but sir, it will require a whole lot of system to be involved. Yes.
It requires a lot of political willpower.
Yes.
And but farmers, I think if we create policies which are, if I were to be able to convince policymakers that make policies which are pro-nature and pro-agriculture and pro-farmer, not pro-human necessarily, but agriculture, if it's better, is obviously pro-human. I think environment improvement then agriculture becomes a part of the solution, and it has to be a part of the solution because each one of us eats food 3 times a day. We can't do without it.
Yes.
So agriculture cannot be a problem. It must be a solution.
And on the other hand, we talk about that we have to do more efforts towards achieving or for the future global food security, and where we required higher yields and other more crops other than just rice and wheat dependence. So
It is, I think, the crop that we have forgotten, sorghum, millet,
yes, sir.
Minor cereals, chickpea, mung bean, or the
Yes.
bean, pigeon peas. They are all, one of the limitations of the Green Revolution was it was centered on wheat and rice. And our traditional crops, which are more nutritious, more suited to our environment. And the same is the case in Africa. We are forgetting traditional crops are cassava, yam, sweet potato, taro, colocasia, sorghum, millet, not rice and wheat. So we should not forget those traditional crops. And we should not forget what the traditional systems were. I think that is what has created a little bit of problem. We forgot our traditional crops.
So because this is in our culture, so as winter arrives, we eat bajre ki khichdi,
Yes,
makki ki roti,
I remember.
all that.
I remember those. Yes,
So all
and they
that.
are good food. They are good food.
So this is according to the weather. So now the weather changes, your habit should also change. You just not rely on similar grains and all that stuff.
Well, I think the other part which I'm concerned about India, I grew up as a vegetarian and I've lived in this country forever. I came to this country when I was about 20-year-old, and but I have not changed my habit of vegetarian. I'm still vegetarian, and vegetarian food is actually better food for not only us, also for the planet. So yes, some white meat like fish or chicken or something is once a week or so is okay. But our population, the more they become affluent, more they want to copy what Westerners are. Our systems, our customs are really very, very good. And we need to, it is unfortunate that all of a sudden we want to eat hamburgers and all those kind of things. Our own foods are very high quality.
Yes, sir. Definitely, definitely. And whole lot of myth is created that if you are vegetarian, you will never get a whole lot of protein. So you you have to depend on eggs. You have
Well,
to
I've
depend on
become
meat.
gray-haired and old, but I don't think so. Our
Yes.
urd beans, mash, what we call pigeon peas, the other beans, they are very high quality.
Yes.
So a balanced diet, vegetarian, not just rice and wheat, but chickpeas and urd and yogurt and fruits and vegetables which we can grow. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's much better. So plant-based protein is not inferior quality.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't mean that everybody has to be vegetarian. No, there's nothing wrong with eating fish once in a while, chicken, and once in a while mutton and so forth is okay. But excessive 3 times a day meat, I don't think that's a healthy.
Bilkul, sir. So, sir, what is your advice to the policymaker globally and educators? How we can play a role towards achieving the goal of restoring
I think the
soil?
policymakers should help us respect farmers, land managers, respect agriculture profession. And let me give you an example of what I mean by respect. Here in the US, when somebody graduates from my class with BSc degree in agriculture, with soil 2, 3 classes and climatology and global warming, those kind of, they'll probably get $40,000. Maybe 45 at the most, but 40, 35, $40,000. If somebody graduate in engineering, electrical or mechanical, they'll probably get 80,000. If somebody get an IT, they probably get 100,000. If somebody get biotechnology, you do this pacemakers and that kind of thing, you'll probably get 150,000. If you're MBBS, you'll probably get 250,000. Why such a difference? Because we do not respect agriculture. That's simple as that. Because if we respected agriculture, why should agriculture graduate be getting only 20% of what an engineer or medical graduate will get? This has to change. That also means the respect of the farmer has to change. We think they are gawar and illiterate and that thinking that agriculture and agriculturists and agricultural professional are second class has to change.
But
And
in my opinion, sir, farmers are, in a true sense, they are the agricultural graduate without the degree because they have experience with their hands and other things. Yes.
Okay. So I think we have to make sure that our agricultural, we have to attract the best and the brightest in this profession. And you can't do that if they know that their salary is going to be 1/4 or 1/5. So maybe sometime 1/10 compared to what the others are going to get. And I think this basic reality has to change.
Definitely, sir. I hope this will change. And so, sir, looking back on your career, you have a tremendous career, so many accolades, so many. Uh, I'm just going through your achievements, and the list is too big that I'm thinking that how will I prepare your introduction in 3-4 slides? It's not possible for me to summarize this.
Well,
So,
that is very easy. I can tell you what to say.
I know the
Let's
version.
say this is Rattan Lal from Haryana, Punjab, and now teaching soil science at Ohio State. That's all. No.
Looking back at your career, is there any particular moment which or achievement that holds special place in your heart? Are you still cherish that?
I must tell you this, that being first person in school in the village, although that, everybody's grade were very low, nothing like, but that gave me confidence that, I can do something. And with that confidence, even though at Ludhiana, I was competing with people who came with much higher school, better labs and better grades. My total grade was 600. In my class, there were students with more than 720s in high school. But that confidence that I was the first, I think that stick with me. So then I was also first in BS degree and I was also first in MS degree and so forth. And so I think that moment, it kind of gives you confidence that, yes, even though you come from a village and didn't have the facility, but that has nothing to do with being first. You can be anybody that you want to be.
And that is your strength.
Yeah, it gives you confidence. And it's the same thing now. When I came as a professor, of course, you are different. Your language is different. Your way of speaking is different. Your thinking is different. And so you have to somehow convince that although I may look differently, I am as good as anybody can be in my profession. And that confidence has to be coming from within. So that ability that I was first in my village school and first at PAU and then first at IARI, that is a big thing. That's a big thing. And I think it's not because I'm any intelligent more than anybody else. I think I yesterday met the board of directors of Ohio State and chairman of the board asked me, why did you have all this? I had $1.4 million cash for all these awards and I didn't keep it. I gave it to Ohio State, everything, every penny. And I told him because the money is not mine. I got it because my professor at Ohio State, therefore it belonged to Ohio State. And he said, why did you get this? I said, the only thing I can think about is a good karma. And karma is in my last life. I must have done something good. So that's kind of Hindu philosophy,
Yes, yes.
but I think it has a lot of meaning. It keeps you humble that I'm not somebody very special, but I must have done something good. And I should keep doing something good this life so that I will also continue doing good. So I think that is the part which is very critical, that we have a self-respect and self-dignity, and we do things with confidence that we can do it.
Great words, sir. Truly inspiring. And
I had yesterday another question, when we were talking about, and I recently got the award, Gulbenkian Award, and it is for humanity. It's a 1 million euro. My share was 1/3 of that. And the first person to get that award, you probably know who she was. There was a Danish teenager girl. Her name was Greta Thunberg.
yes, sir, yes, sir.
About four. There was a Pakistani girl, Malala Jalal.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
She got the Nobel Prize because she was shot. And there was a Danish girl, Greta
Thunberg,
Thunberg.
yes, sir.
And Greta Thunberg got the same award I got this year.
Wow, congratulations, sir.
So somebody was asking me, is there anything commonality? I said, yes, our age. We are the same age. So what do you mean? So she's 18, I'm 81. It's a matter of how you write your age. I write 8 before 1. She writes 1 before 8. That's all.
Great, sir. And
I still come to work at 5
a.m.
a.m. And that is the reason.
Sir, 5 a.m.
Yes.
So, at what time you wake up in the morning?
I wake up 3:30.
Wow. Sir, at this age, I truly salute you. And today,
The fact is, you cannot get anything out of nothing. And so the books, 100 of them, 110 total, journal article, 1,200 of them, book chapter, 500 of them, they are simply based on hard work.
yes,
So
no one can deny this. And
there's nothing else.
yes, great
So
achievement,
by the
sir.
time by the time my staff comes, 8:30, I have already worked 3-4 hours. And I do the same thing on weekend. Now, it does not have everything nice because obviously I cannot do as much time with my grandchildren and others, and that's important. But I think what it shows is that if you want to be somebody, you have to be willing to do different than others do. And there is an English saying, excuse me, I got to drink some water.
Sure, sir. No,
There's an English saying which has been with me from the very first class in English. The heights by great men reached and kept were never attained by a sudden flight. But while their companions slept, they were toiling upwards during the night. That is the message.
nice words.
You have to work. There is no other option.
Great. Today is my learning experience, which I never forget. It's a lifetime learning experience for me also, sir. So, sir, how do you see in all of your journey, how do you see your family support shaped you?
Oh, that's very critical. My wife, as I said, I'm vegetarian, and so she still helps me the food I like to eat, very homemade. But I get a full support from my family. And we have 4 children. They are all very good. I have 5 grandchildren, 4 granddaughters, and 1 grandson. And they're all very nice, very kind.
With all my heartfelt gratitude, uh, Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye.